Daniel always woke before the sun. It wasn't that he was a restless sleeper. It was simply the way his body had learned to greet the world. Long before the first streaks of pale gold brushed the curtains, he was already awake, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, the faint ticking of the clock on the wall, and the muted silence of the city outside. He slipped from the bed as quietly as possible. Elena, curled beneath the blankets, usually mumbled something indistinct and turned onto her other side. Daniel smiled to himself every time she did that. It was their silent routine. He rose early. She lingered in sleep. In the kitchen, he filled the kettle, ground the coffee beans, and let the fragrance rise in slow waves through the small apartment. He always thought of it as his gift to Elena, the smell of fresh coffee that gently pulled her into wakefulness. While the water heated, he reached for the broom. The tiles were cool under his feet, and the rhythmic swish-swish of bristles was oddly satisfying. He noticed a crumb here, a petal from the flowers Elena had bought last week there, a trail of dust that had somehow appeared overnight. Just as he finished sweeping, the kettle whistled. Daniel poured the water slowly over the grounds, watching the steam rise. He loved this moment, the quiet, the ritual, the sense that the day was beginning clean and fresh. Behind him, a soft voice teased, "Are you trying to bribe me with coffee again?" Elena stood in the doorway, her hair tied loosely, eyes still heavy with sleep, but a smile playing on her lips. She always looked like she belonged to the morning, even when she swore she hated waking early. Daniel handed her a cup. "Not bribery," he said, mock, serious. "Strategic encouragement." She laughed softly and shook her head. "Well, it's working. Laundry first today." "Laundry?" Daniel groaned theatrically, though he was already reaching for the basket. "Why do I always get the heavy part of this partnership?" "Because you're strong," Elena replied with a smirk, taking a sip of her coffee. "And because you can't fold shirts to save your life." Together, they sorted clothes whites in one pile, colors in another. Elena folded the delicate pieces with a precision Daniel could never quite master, while he hauled the larger loads to the basement laundry room. On his second trip down the stairs, he almost tripped over the neighbor's cat, who regarded him with a smug flick of its tail. When he returned upstairs, Elena was already tackling the breakfast dishes from the night before. She hummed under her breath, some tune that Daniel couldn't name but had heard 100 times. The sound filled the apartment more warmly than any music player could. By late morning, the chores had grown into a kind of dance. Elena wiped down the counters just as Daniel mopped the kitchen floor, and they had to shuffle sideways around each other like clumsy dancers in too small a space. "Careful," Elena exclaimed once, nearly slipping as she carried folded sheets past the damp tiles. "See?" Daniel grinned. "Housework is dangerous. We need hazard pay." The rhythm of the day carried them forward. Elena watered the plants, stopping to adjust each leaf as though she were speaking to them. Daniel shook out the rugs, sneezing at the cloud of dust that rose up, while Elena laughed and offered him a tissue. Not everything went smoothly. A bottle of detergent tipped over in the laundry room, filling the air with a scent so strong that Daniel came back upstairs, fanning himself with the empty basket. Elena accidentally dropped a spoon into the garbage disposal and had to fish it out with exaggerated disgust. Yet every small mishap became another reason to laugh, another story to fold into the fabric of their ordinary day. When afternoon light streamed across the living room, they paused. Daniel stretched, leaning against the doorway, and Elena collapsed onto the sofa with a sigh. "Do you ever think," he asked, "that all we do is clean and cook and tidy?" Elena turned her head toward him, eyes still bright despite the fatigue. "Of course, that's life," she smiled faintly. "But it's our life, and I wouldn't trade it." They sat together, sipping another round of coffee, holding hands in the quiet. Outside, the city had fully awakened. Cars honked, children shouted. Somewhere a dog barked, but inside, their little apartment hummed with the peace of two people who had spent the day not just working through chores, but building a rhythm of togetherness. Later, as the evening gathered, Daniel began preparing dinner, while Elena folded the last of the clean laundry. He chopped vegetables noisily, humming off-key, while she called out suggestions from the other room. When he dropped a piece of carrot on the floor, she teased, "Hazard pay again?" And they both burst into laughter. By the time night fell, the apartment was clean, the laundry was done, and the dishes sparkled. They were tired, yes, but in the quiet of their shared space, surrounded by the scent of fresh linens and warm food, Daniel and Elena felt the comfort of something far greater than chores. "Funny, isn't it?" Daniel said as they settled into the sofa together. "We spent the whole day doing nothing extraordinary." Elena rested her head on his shoulder. "Exactly," she murmured. "And that's what makes it extraordinary."